Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in again. Today we're going to take a look at a specific pattern that I've seen in a few players recently, where from the top of the backswing, the player would spin open with their pelvis and then get trapped with their trail arm behind their body, moving into downswing. If this is not you, we are still going to touch upon loading that lead hip into the downswing, the position of the lead knee, and how to match up that trail side to that hip movement. Okay, so you still might get something that's really valuable for your own game. I hope you enjoyed the video. So what I thought would be a good thing to do today would be to just share the videos from an online lesson where a player very clearly demonstrated the tendency in transition that I went over in the introduction there, where he would spin open a lot really early into downswing and then get really trapped, that trail elbow behind the body. You can see it there in the video that from that position he's really going to struggle to get a good connection. And also moving into impact, how once there, now the club will lag under, so the player was hitting a lot of hooks and a lot of pushes from there. So a little bit of cleaning up to be done. And just to give you a bit of background on the player, historically this player had always struggled to really get into that left side and load it in a way that would be helpful for the trail side in the transition. So we're going to go over that today. But what really has put this player in a tough position is that because this player always had a little bit of the spin tendency, that would lead to the player getting steeper with the club coming in. The player for a while then took the approach that they wanted to just change the hand path and the delivery with the arms without addressing really the left hip spinning open and the control around that lead hip. So essentially all that player did was, and you can see in the transition move, is that as the left hip spins open, that trail shoulder and arm gets deeper and more behind, because the player wanted to try and be shallower purely by just adjusting the hand path and swinging more out to the right. So that only led to, or has led to, more complications that we're going to have to undo. And it just presents how important it is to really look at, like, okay, what is the leading domino to attack here, and then what specifically needs to be done. So let's start off with loading into that trail hip. So if someone was to spin here in that manner there, often it is accompanied with that lead knee getting pointed a good amount outside that lead foot. Just from an anatomical standpoint, then if you were to think of that, the player is then going to push off the ground, not a great position to push off the ground if that lead knee is over there and this left hip or this lead hip is back. Essentially what we're looking for is to almost line up the joints there. So you can see how I'm moving into that left hip there, where the rotation of the pelvis and around the head of the femur is quite different than if I just let it spin. So we're going to allow the belt buckle to move closer to the pocket. We're going to keep the knee more stable, more lined up over the foot there. Now if you were to think of anything from a gym standpoint, whether it be deadlifts or anything single arm, you're going to line up the joints just from an efficiency standpoint and a safety standpoint, so that when you go to push, you're just going to maximize the forces there. You're going to get that lead hip nice and high and nice and open as well as you move in through the shot. So there's a few keys around getting into that lead hip there. As far as then matching up the trail side in the downswing, essentially because the amount of reps that have been put in of trying to get those hands over here, that's going to have to be undone. And I've always found that from here a good way to work on getting that club more in front is just keep that left arm in underneath the trail forearm, working in, and then using the butt of the club as a reference. So as it's coming down, it's almost pointing at the ball and then towards the target when it's in this position here, instead of getting trapped this way and then that club getting so under like the player was doing earlier on in I showed in the video earlier. Okay, so what we did with the player, and I'll show you the video here where we got him, and you can see that the alignment's not quite matched up. That's part of the fields we're working on, is we got the player to set up and put the trail foot back, and then work on hitting pull cuts was the feel to help the player to, from here, just reduce the amount that the hands move behind. So you can see the player's feet is staggered. He's set up here. He's loading into that lead hip. He's working on that move. And when the player first did it, from a drill standpoint, even if it was just, oh, sorry, I just bumped the mic there. Even if it was just here, just working around that lead hip, letting that right shoulder get through. That way there, the player feedback was how much they felt tightness around this lead hip area. So obviously it's going to be a huge advantage for that player to go and roll out that area and address that tightness so that they can actually have a better chance of doing that movement there around the lead hip. But you can see here that in the video that in doing the drill, I like how much that player is now able to get the hand path more left. I like how in the release, the face looks really different there compared to where the face was and how the release looked when the player started. Okay, so some really good little gains there that I feel that you could, if you have that pattern, take to your own game. The player was, again, swinging very easily with that staggered stance, trying to hit pull cuts, moving into that lead hip, trying to get that hand path more left through it. Those were the keys. So hopefully that helps you if you have that pattern. If you don't have that pattern, hopefully there's a few little keys there you could consider that might help you with your own game. And if you want a more specific approach, as always, I offer online lessons, so please connect if you feel that's something that might interest you.